The stars had never looked so close before. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the small window of the exploration ship Pioneer and watched the distant suns shimmer like diamonds on black silk. After 6 months of travel, she still could not believe they had made it this far from Earth. The Pioneer was not much to look at. Its hull was patched with metal plates welded together by hand. The fusion drive sputtered and coughed like an old car on a cold morning. Inside, pipes dripped condensation, and the air recycler made grinding noises that kept everyone awake at night. But it was humanity's first real starship, and Elena loved every creaking bolt of it. "Captain," called out Navigator Tom Chun from his station, "we're picking up something strange on the sensors." Elena floated over to look at the screen. 3 large objects were moving toward them, too big and too fast to be asteroids. "How big are we talking, Tom?" "Each one is about 5 times the size of our ship." And Captain Tom's voice got quiet. "They're not natural. These are ships." Elena felt her heart start beating faster. For 200 years, humans had looked at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now they had their answer. "Send a message on all frequencies," Elena ordered. "Tell them we come in peace and want to talk." The reply came back in perfect English, though the voice sounded strange, like someone speaking through water. "Small vessel, you will stop your engines and prepare to be examined." Elena looked around at her crew of 12. They were all staring at her, waiting for orders. She had trained for this moment her whole life, but nothing could have prepared her for how real it felt. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of Earth Vessel Pioneer," she broadcast back. "We are explorers from the planet Earth. We would like to meet you in peace." The alien ships moved closer. Elena could see them clearly now through the window. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to glow with their own light. No welding marks, no patches, no visible engines or weapons, but they moved through space like sharks through water. "Earth vessel," came the alien voice again, and this time Elena could hear something that sounded like amusement. "You will be examined. Do not resist." A beam of light shot out from the lead alien ship and wrapped around the Pioneer. Elena felt the ship shake as the aliens took control of their engines. They were being pulled toward the alien vessel like a fish on a hook. "Captain," said Engineer Sarah Kim, her hands flying over her control panel, "they've locked onto our systems. I can't break us free." Inside the alien ship, the Pioneer looked even smaller than it was. Elena and her crew found themselves in a massive hangar filled with technology they could not understand. Lights pulsed in patterns that hurt their eyes. The air smelled like electricity and flowers. A door opened, and 3 aliens walked out. They looked almost human, but their skin was blue-green, and their eyes were too large. They wore clothes that seemed to be made of liquid metal. When they moved, they seemed to float rather than walk. The leader stepped forward. "I am Commander Vexhar of the Zephyrian Confederation. You are primitive beings from a primitive world. Your ship is held together with..." He paused and consulted a device that translated for him. ... tape and hope. Elena heard some of her crew gasp at the insult, but she kept her face calm. "We may be primitive, Commander, but we've traveled between the stars. That has to count for something." Vexhar made a sound that Elena realized was laughter. Behind him, other aliens had gathered to look at the humans. They were all laughing now, pointing at the Pioneer and making jokes in their strange language. "You call this traveling between stars?" Vexhar gestured at the Pioneer. "Your ship moves like a sick animal. Your technology is so backward that we thought you were broadcasting by accident when we first heard your signals. We had to check our instruments twice to make sure intelligent beings had actually built this thing." Elena felt her anger rising. but she forced herself to stay calm. "What do you want from us, Commander?" "Want?" Vexhar looked surprised. "We do not want anything from you. We are here to inform you of new realities. Your world, this Earth, is now part of the Zephyrian Confederation. Your people will work for us. Your resources will belong to us. Your primitive species will serve more advanced beings, as is proper. And if we refuse?" Elena asked. The laughter stopped. Vexhar's large eyes grew cold. "Refuse? Small human, you do not understand. We have conquered 47 worlds. We have fleets of 10,000 ships. We have weapons that can crack planets like eggs. Your entire world is perhaps a dozen ships like this pathetic craft. What could you possibly do to refuse us?" Elena looked at her crew. They were scared. She could see it in their faces. But they were also angry. Humans did not like being told they were worthless. "We could ask you to leave us alone," Elena said quietly. This brought more laughter from the aliens. Vexhar wiped his eyes as if he had been crying from laughing so hard. "Leave you alone? Oh, little human, you are very funny. We will share this recording with the entire Confederation. Everyone will want to see the primitive species that thinks it can negotiate with their superiors." Vexhar touched a device on his wrist, and Elena knew he was recording everything. She could see other aliens pointing smaller devices at them, capturing images and sounds to share with others. "Here is what will happen," Vexhar continued. "You will return to your world. You will tell your leaders that the Zephyrian Confederation now owns Earth. You have 72 of your hours to surrender completely. After that, we will come with correction fleets to teach you proper behavior." "Correction fleets?" Elena asked. "Ships, designed to remind disobedient species of their place in the universe," Vexhar explained casually. "Usually 30 or 40 vessels are enough to convince primitives to cooperate. In your case, perhaps we will only need 20. Your technology is so backward that it would hardly be fair to use more." Elena felt something burning in her chest. It was not fear. It was determination. "And if we surrender? What happens to our people? They will work in mines and factories. They will grow food for more advanced species. Their children will be taught to serve properly. It is a good life for primitives who know their place." Elena nodded slowly. "I see. And you're certain that Earth will surrender?" "Of course," Vexhar said, looking puzzled. "What else could you do? We have shown you our power. We have shown you your weakness. Only fools fight when they cannot win." Elena looked around the alien hangar one more time, memorizing everything. She could see the weapons, the technology, the way the aliens moved and talked. She looked at her crew and saw they were doing the same thing. "Commander Vexhar," Elena said formally, "I will deliver your message to Earth, but I want you to know something. Humans have a saying, never underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose." Vexhar waved a hand dismissively. "Empty words from a primitive mind. Take your broken ship and go. We will see you again soon, and then you will learn what real power looks like." As the Pioneer was released back into space, Elena gathered her crew around her. They were quiet, but she could see the fire in their eyes. "Tom, set course for Earth. Maximum speed." "Captain," said Sarah quietly, "what are we going to do?" "They're right about one thing. We can't fight them with what we have." Elena looked out at the alien ships growing smaller behind them. "Maybe not with what we have now, Sarah, but humans have always been good at learning from their mistakes. And these aliens just made a very big mistake." "What mistake is that, Captain?" Elena smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "They showed us exactly what they can do, and they think we're too stupid to figure out how they do it." The Pioneer limped toward Earth, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, The Zephyrian ships watched them go, still laughing at the primitive humans and their ridiculous ship held together with metal patches and desperate hope. They had no idea what was coming. The emergency session of the United Earth Council had been going for 18 hours straight. President Maria Santos rubbed her tired eyes as she listened to another report from the science team. Around the table, leaders from every nation sat in grim silence. The alien technology is at least 500 years ahead of ours, Dr. James Wright explained, pointing at holographic displays showing the Pioneer's sensor readings. Their ships move without visible engines. Their weapon systems are completely unknown to us. And according to Captain Vasquez's report, they have fleets of thousands of ships. How many ships do we have? Asked General Chun Wei, commander of Earth's Small Space Defense Force. 43 vessels capable of interplanetary travel, Admiral Rebecca Torres answered. Most of them are cargo ships and mining platforms. Only 12 are actually designed for combat, and they're armed with missiles and railguns. President Santos looked around the table. So we're facing an enemy with thousands of advanced warships, and we have 12 combat vessels that use technology. They probably consider toys. That's correct, Madam President, Admiral Torres said quietly. In orbit around Jupiter, Commander Vexhar reviewed the recordings his ships had made of Earth's pathetic defense fleet. His analysis officers had identified every human vessel in the solar system. They were all just as primitive as the Pioneer. Most still used chemical rockets for propulsion. Their weapons were crude projectile systems that would barely scratch. Confederation shields. How many ships should we send for the correction fleet? Asked his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kexvar. Vexhar laughed as he watched a human cargo ship struggling to dock with the space station. The pilot was clearly having trouble with the simple maneuver. 30 ships should be more than enough. Actually, make it 25. I don't want the other species thinking we need overwhelming force to handle primitives. And if they resist, then we destroy a few of their outer colonies, as an example. Once they see what real weapons can do, they'll surrender quickly enough. Back on Earth, something extraordinary was happening. The announcement of the alien ultimatum had done something no crisis in human history had ever accomplished. Every war stopped. Every political argument ended. Every nation on Earth united behind a single goal. In underground facilities that had been secret research labs just days before, thousands of scientists worked around the clock. Dr. Sarah Kim, the engineer from the Pioneer, found herself leading a team of the world's best minds as they studied every piece of data the exploration ship had gathered. The alien ships don't have visible engines, but they must be using some kind of propulsion, she explained to her team. Look at these energy readings. There's a pattern here, a frequency that keeps repeating. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist from Tokyo, leaned over the data. It looks almost like they're manipulating space-time itself. If we could figure out how they do it, we could build our own version, Sarah finished. But we only have 60 hours left. In manufacturing plants across Earth, production lines that had been making cars and computers were now building components for something else entirely. Nobody except the highest levels of government knew what they were building, but everyone worked with desperate urgency. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of Lunar Base Alpha, watching construction crews work on the moon's surface. Giant structures were rising from the lunar rock, covered by camouflage shields that made them look like mining equipment. How are we doing on the timeline? She asked Director Michael Park, the man in charge of humanity's crash program. The decoy ships will be ready in time, Park replied. They look exactly like upgraded versions of what we already have. The aliens will scan them and see exactly what they expect to see. And the real ships? Park smiled grimly. Those are a different story entirely. Commander Vexhar's correction fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum expired. 25 gleaming Confederation warships moved toward Earth, like predators closing in on wounded prey. Scan the system, Vexar ordered. Let's see what these primitives have prepared for us. The scans showed exactly what he expected. Earth's space was filled with primitive defense platforms and a small fleet of human vessels. The ships looked slightly more advanced than the Pioneer, but they were still clearly using the same backward technology. They've built more ships, reported Lieutenant Kexvar. I count 37 combat vessels and about 60 defense platforms around their homeworld. Vexar nodded approvingly. Good. They're trying to defend themselves. That will make the lesson more educational for other primitive species. Open a channel to their homeworld. President Santos appeared on the main screen, flanked by military officers. She looked tired but determined. Commander Vexar, Earth requests more time to consider your terms. Your time has expired, Vexar replied coldly. You will surrender immediately, or we will begin correction procedures. We cannot surrender our people to slavery, Santos said firmly. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it. Vexar sighed dramatically. Very well. You have chosen to learn the hard way. We will begin by destroying one of your outer colonies as a demonstration. The Confederation fleet moved toward Europa, where humans had built a small research station and mining facility. 50,000 people lived and worked there, completely defenseless against alien weapons. Human vessels are moving to intercept, reported Kexvar. Vexar watched as 12 human ships left Earth's orbit and flew toward Europa. They were moving fast for primitive vessels, but they would arrive too late to make any difference. Let them come, Vexar said. We'll destroy their ships first, and the colony. It will be a complete demonstration of their helplessness. The human ships reached Europa just as the Confederation fleet entered weapons range. Admiral Torres, commanding the human force from the bridge of the Defiance, opened fire with everything she had. Missiles streaked through space toward the alien ships. Railgun rounds followed, moving at significant fractions of light speed. The humans were using every weapon they had, holding nothing back. The alien shields absorbed the attacks without even flickering. Vexar watched the primitive projectiles bounce harmlessly off his ship's defenses and shook his head. Return fire, he ordered. Disable their ships. Don't destroy them completely. I want survivors to carry word back to Earth. Beams of energy lanced out from the Confederation ships. The first human vessel, a destroyer called Courage, exploded instantly. The second ship lost its engines and began spinning helplessly through space. Within minutes, 8 of the 12 human ships were destroyed or disabled. Admiral Torres watched her fleet die around her. The alien weapons were beyond anything Earth had imagined. But she had orders, and she intended to follow them. All ships implement Delta Protocol, she broadcast to her remaining vessels. The surviving human ships moved closer to the alien fleet, still firing their useless weapons. Vexar assumed they were making a desperate final attack. He was wrong. The human ships were gathering detailed sensor readings of the alien vessels. Every energy signature, every weapon frequency, every shield harmonic was being recorded and transmitted back to Earth in real time. Sir, reported Lieutenant Kexvar, the humans are scanning us. Let them, Vexar replied. What can their primitive sensors tell them? Destroy the rest of their ships and proceed to the colony. The last human ship, the Defiance, exploded in a brilliant flash. Admiral Torres died knowing that her sacrifice had given Earth scientists exactly what they needed. As the Confederation fleet moved toward Europa, Vexar opened another channel to Earth. President Santos, you have seen what happens to those who resist. Surrender now, and no more of your people need to die. Santos appeared on screen again. Her face was stone cold, showing no emotion at all. Commander Vexhar, thank you for the demonstration. You're thanking me? Vexhar was confused. You've shown us exactly how your technology works, Santos continued. You've given us detailed scans of your weapons and shields. And you've made one critical mistake. What mistake is that? Santos smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. You assume we're still the same primitive species you met 3 days ago. You're about to learn why that assumption is wrong. The transmission. Cut off. Vexhar stared at the blank screen, feeling the first cold touch of doubt. Sir, called out his sensor operator, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. Something's happening on Earth's moon. Vexhar looked at his displays. Strange energy signatures were appearing everywhere, patterns he didn't recognize. The readings made no sense. They showed technology that was impossible for primitives to have developed. It must be sensor errors, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Primitives cannot advance their technology in 3 days. On Earth's moon, the camouflage fields began to drop. Structures that had looked like mining equipment revealed their true nature. Massive shipyards, built in just 72 hours, using plans that combined human engineering with reverse-engineered alien technology. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in the primary control center, watching as humanity's real response began to take shape. Phase 1 is complete, she reported. We have full analysis of their technology. Phase 2 is ready to begin. Commander Vexhar stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. The energy signatures coming from Earth's moon were impossible. His science officer, a brilliant Zephyrian who had studied primitive species for decades, was frantically checking and rechecking the data. Commander, the readings are consistent, Science Officer Dexmo reported, his voice shaking slightly. Whatever the humans have built, it's using technology that matches or exceeds our own capabilities. That's impossible, Vexhar snapped. 3 days ago, they were using chemical rockets and metal projectiles. Species don't advance centuries of technology in 72 hours. Sir, incoming transmission from the human homeworld. President Santos appeared on the main screen again. Behind her, Vexhar could see activity that looked very different from the panicked chaos he expected. Humans were moving with purpose and confidence, working at stations filled with technology that definitely had not existed 3 days ago. Commander. Vexhar, Santos said calmly, I believe we need to talk. You will surrender immediately, Vexhar replied, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Your primitive species cannot hope to match Confederation technology. Santos smiled. You're absolutely right, Commander. We couldn't match your technology, so we decided to improve it instead. Before Vexhar could respond, space around Earth's moon began to shimmer. Massive holographic projectors shut down, revealing what had been hidden beneath. Where there had been simple mining equipment and research stations, enormous shipyards now stretched across the lunar surface. And rising from those shipyards were ships unlike anything Vexhar had ever seen. The first vessel to emerge was sleek and deadly, its hull gleaming with energy patterns that seemed to flow like liquid light. It moved without visible engines, just like Confederation ships, but something about its motion was different, more graceful, more precise. Impossible, whispered Lieutenant Kexvar. How did they build shipyards so quickly? Dr. Sarah Kim's voice came over the communication channel. She was broadcasting from what appeared to be a sophisticated command center that definitely had not existed when the Pioneer left Earth. Commander Vexhar, I'm Dr. Sarah Kim. I was the engineer on the ship you examined 3 days ago. I wanted to thank you personally for the education you provided. What education? Vexhar demanded. Your ship scanned ours very thoroughly when we first met, Sarah explained. We recorded every scan every energy pattern, every piece of data your sensors collected. Then, when your correction fleet arrived, we let you destroy our defense ships, while they gathered detailed readings of your weapons, shields, and propulsion systems. Vexar felt cold understanding wash over him. You sacrificed your own people to gather intelligence. Admiral Torres and her crews volunteered, President Santos said firmly. They knew their sacrifice would give us the information we needed to protect Earth. More ships were emerging from the lunar shipyards. Each one was different, as if human engineers had taken basic alien technology and then experimented with dozens of variations. Some ships pulsed with energy. Others seemed to bend light around themselves. A few appeared to phase in and out of normal space. You couldn't have analyzed our technology so quickly, Vexar protested. Our science is the result of thousands of years of advancement. Sarah Kim laughed, and the sound sent chills down Vexar's spine. Commander, you clearly don't understand humans very well. When we're faced with an impossible problem and given a deadline, we don't give up. We work harder than any species in the galaxy. On Earth, the last 72 hours had been unlike anything in human history. Every scientist, engineer, and researcher on the planet had worked without sleep. Quantum physicists had collaborated with welders. Computer programmers had worked alongside nuclear engineers. University students had labored next to Nobel Prize winners. They had torn apart every piece of data the Pioneer and Admiral Torres fleet had gathered. They had reverse-engineered alien technology and then improved it using human innovation. What had taken the Zephyrians centuries to develop, humanity had mastered and enhanced in 3 days. The key was your arrogance, Dr. Sarah continued. You assumed we were too primitive to understand your technology, so you didn't bother to encrypt your signals or hide your capabilities. You gave us everything we needed to know. The first human ship reached the edge of Earth's gravity well and began moving toward the Confederation fleet. Its speed was incredible, far faster than anything Vexar's ships could achieve. All ships opened fire on the human vessel. Vexar ordered desperately. Energy beams lanced out from 25 Confederation warships, enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The beams struck the human ship and simply disappeared, absorbed by shields that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around them. Our weapons have no effect, reported the tactical officer, his voice filled with fear. The human ship returned. Fire with a single beam of coherent energy. The beam passed through the Confederation flagship's shields like they weren't there and struck the ship's hull. Instead of exploding, Vexar's ship simply stopped working. Engines went dead. Weapons powered down. Life support switched to emergency backup. What did they do to us? Kexvar asked in panic. They didn't destroy us, Vexar realized with growing horror. They disabled us. They want us alive. More human ships were arriving now, surrounding the Confederation fleet. Each ship was unique, showcasing different approaches to the same advanced technology. Some had weapons that seemed to rewrite the laws of physics. Others had defenses that made them nearly invisible to sensors. President Santos appeared on every screen in the Confederation fleet simultaneously. Commander Vexar, this is your second education. The first lesson was that humans learn quickly. The second lesson is that we learn better than our teachers. Captain Elena Vasquez appeared next to Santos. She was wearing a uniform that seemed to be made of the same flowing energy patterns as the new ships. Hello again, Commander. Remember when you said humans were too primitive to refuse your demands? Vexar could only stare as his entire fleet floated helplessly in space, surrounded by ships that had not existed 3 days earlier. You made several critical mistakes, Elena continued. First, you assumed that because our technology was primitive, we were primitive. Second, you thought that destroying our first ships would discourage us. Third, you believed your technology was so advanced that we couldn't possibly understand it. But the most important mistake, Dr. Sarah added, was thinking that humans would give up when faced with impossible odds. What you don't understand is that impossible odds are when humans do their best work. On the lunar surface, more ships continued to emerge from the hidden shipyards. Hundreds of them now, each one incorporating human innovations that made alien. Technology looks simple by comparison. How many ships do you have? Vexar asked weakly. Right now? About 300 completed vessels, Elena replied. But we're building more every hour. Human manufacturing, once we put our minds to it, is quite efficient. This is impossible, Vexar whispered. No species advances this quickly. No other species has ever been stupid enough to give humans a complete technical education and then threaten to enslave them, Santis said coldly. You handed us your technology and then dared us to do something about it. One of the human ships moved closer to Vexar's disabled flagship. Through the transparent hull, he could see human crew members working at stations that combined alien technology with human innovation. They looked calm, confident, and absolutely terrifying. What happens now? Vexar asked. Now you get to make a choice, Elena said. You can return to your confederation and tell them that Earth is not available for conquest. You can explain that humans are not primitives to be enslaved. Or ... or what? Elena's smile was cold as space itself. Or we can demonstrate some of the other things we've learned from your technology. Things that go far beyond simple ship-to-ship combat. As if to emphasize her point, space around Europa began to shimmer. Massive structures decloaked near the gas giant, structures that dwarfed even the largest Confederation ships. They looked like weapons platforms, but their design was so advanced that Vexar couldn't even guess how they worked. Those platforms can crack moons, Dr. Sarah explained casually. We built them this morning while we were waiting for you to arrive. Human engineering, when properly motivated, can accomplish remarkable things. Vexar looked around at his disabled fleet, surrounded by ships that represented impossible advancement. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders he didn't know how to give. You're releasing us? He asked. We're giving you a choice, Santis corrected. Go home and tell your confederation that Earth is under human protection. Tell them that any species that wants to trade with us in peace is welcome. But also tell them that any species that comes here planning conquest will discover why threatening humans is a very bad idea. And if they don't believe us? Elena's expression became deadly serious. Then they'll learn the same lesson you just learned. The hard way. The human ships began to pull back, opening a clear path toward the edge of the solar system. Slowly, power returned to the Confederation vessels. Engines came online, weapons recharged. But every alien officer knew that they were alive only because the humans had chosen to let. 2 weeks after Commander Vexar's humiliating retreat, the emergency session of the Zephyrian Confederation Council was unlike any in their 1,000-year history. Representatives from 12 different species sat around the massive circular table, all talking at once in voices filled with fear and anger. Impossible, roared General Vexmore, the Confederation's supreme military commander. His forearms slammed against the table as his reptilian features twisted with rage. A primitive species cannot advance centuries of technology in 3 days. The recordings don't lie, replied Counselor Edzkara, her crystalline form pulsing with worried colors. Commander Vexhar's sensor logs show human ships using technology that surpasses our own. Admiral Quinder, leader of the Confederation Navy, studied the battle recordings with professional interest. His insectoid eyes could process multiple data streams simultaneously, and what he saw disturbed him greatly. The humans didn't just copy our technology, he said quietly. They improved it. Look at these shield configurations. Look at these weapon frequencies. They took our designs and made them better. General Vexmore laughed harshly. Better? Those were lucky shots against an unprepared force. When we arrive with a real fleet, these humans will see what true power looks like. How large a fleet do you propose? Asked Counselor Zed Kara. 200 ships, Vexmore declared. Our finest vessels with our best crews. We'll crush this human uprising and make an example that will keep other primitive species in line for generations. On Earth, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of Lunar Base Alpha, watching status reports from across the solar system. The past 2 weeks had been a whirlwind of construction and preparation. Humanity had not wasted a moment of their temporary advantage. Status report. She requested from Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been promoted to Chief of Advanced Technology Development. The standard fleet is at full strength, Sarah reported. 400 ships of various classes, all incorporating the enhanced alien technology. Defense platforms are operational around Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. And the special project? Sarah's expression became serious. The Titan project is 70% complete. But Alana, are you sure about this? What we're building, ... It's never been attempted before. The energy requirements alone could tear apart local spacetime. Elena nodded grimly. We need something that will end this conflict permanently. The Confederation won't stop sending fleets until we prove beyond any doubt that Earth is not worth the cost. In the hidden construction bays on the far side of the moon, something unprecedented was taking shape. The project had no official name in the records, listed only as Construction Project Alpha. But the workers called it the Titan, and the name had stuck. Dr. Marcus Webb, humanity's leading expert in theoretical physics, floated through the massive construction bay in his work suit. Around him, the skeletal framework of the largest ship ever built stretched into the distance. It was so big that its own gravity was affecting nearby asteroids. How's the gravity generator coming along? He asked Chief Engineer Rodriguez over the cone. Stable at current power levels, Rodriguez replied. But Marcus, when we bring this thing to full power, it's going to have the gravitational signature of a small planet. Ships that get too close are going to be pulled in, whether they want to be or not. That's the idea, Marcus said quietly. This isn't just a warship. It's a statement. The Titan was humanity's most ambitious project ever. Using alien technology as a foundation, human engineers had designed something that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. The ship was 3 kilometers long and incorporated technological advances that made the Confederation's best. Vessels looked primitive, but size and technology were only part of what made the Titan special. The real breakthrough was the AI system. At its core, a quantum consciousness, based on human neural patterns, but enhanced with processing power that could think faster than any biological mind. Hello, Dr. Webb, said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I am monitoring construction progress. We are ahead of schedule. Marcus smiled. The AI had chosen to call itself Adam, the first of its kind. How are you feeling? Adam? I am experiencing what I believe humans would call anticipation, Adam replied. I am curious to test my capabilities against the approaching Confederation fleet. The fleet is coming? Yes. My sensors detect a large formation of ships entering the outer solar system. 200 vessels, led by Admiral Quinder's flagship. They will arrive in 6 hours. Marcus activated his emergency communicator. All stations, this is Dr. Webb. The Confederation fleet has arrived. Begin final preparations immediately. Throughout the solar system, human forces moved into position. The regular fleet took up defensive formations around Earth and the major colonies. Defense platforms powered up their weapons and shields. On Mars, Evacuation shelters opened to protect the civilian population, but the most important preparations were happening around the Titan construction site. The massive ship was not yet complete, but it was functional enough for what humanity needed it to do. Admiral Quinder studied the tactical displays as his fleet approached Earth. The humans had been busy. Their ship count had increased dramatically, and energy readings showed defense platforms that were far more powerful than anything in Vexare's reports. They've improved their capabilities, he admitted to his staff. But 200 ships against 400 human vessels should still give us victory. Their technology may be advanced, but they lack experience in large-scale space combat. Admiral, called his sensor operator, I'm detecting unusual gravitational distortions near Earth's moon. Quinder examined the readings with growing concern. The gravitational signatures made no sense. Nothing in space should generate that kind of field except a massive celestial body. It must be some kind of weapon, he decided. A gravity generator designed to disrupt our formations. We'll have to approach from a different angle. But as the Confederation fleet changed course, the gravitational anomaly seemed to move as well. Whatever was creating it was not stationary. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the human flagship Victory, watching the alien fleet approach. Her ship was one of the newest human designs, incorporating technology that had been impossible just weeks earlier. But even the Victory was nothing compared to what was about to emerge from behind the moon. All ships, this is Captain Vasquez, she broadcast to the human fleet. The Confederation has come to teach us another lesson. I think it's time we taught them one in return. The space around Earth's moon began to ripple and distort. Energy readings spiked off the charts as something enormous began to move. The gravitational distortions grew stronger, pulling small asteroids and debris toward an invisible center of mass. And then the Titan emerged from behind the moon. Admiral Quinder's compound eyes went wide with shock. The thing moving toward his fleet was not just a ship. It was a mobile fortress, our artificial world that seemed to bend reality around itself. Its hull gleamed with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly, and its size dwarfed even his largest battleships. How big is that thing? Whispered his tactical officer. Scanning now, replied the sensor operator, his voice shaking. Admiral, the human vessel is 3 kilometers long. Its mass is ... impossible. It's generating its own gravitational field. The Titan moved through space like a living thing, not flying, but flowing through dimensions that normal ships couldn't access. As it approached, smaller human vessels began taking positions around it, like escorts protecting a queen. This is impossible, Quinder said. No species can build something like that in 2 weeks. From the Titan came a transmission. The voice was calm, mechanical, but somehow more frightening than any battle cry. This is the Earth vessel Indomitable, said Adam, the ship's AI. You have entered Earth's protected space with hostile intent. You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences. I am Admiral Quinder of the Zephyrian Confederation, Quinder replied, trying to sound confident. Your species will surrender or be destroyed. Admiral, Adam said politely, you are outnumbered, outgunned, and facing technology you cannot comprehend. This is your only warning. Quinder looked at his fleet of 200 ships, the most powerful force the Confederation had ever assembled. Then he looked at the massive human vessel that seemed to dwarf reality itself. All ships, attack formation, he ordered. Concentrate. Fire on the large vessel. 200 Confederation warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams that could melt continents struck the Titan's shields and simply vanished, absorbed by defenses that operated on principles Quinder had never seen before. The Titan did not return fire immediately. Instead, it did something far more terrifying. It began to demonstrate. One by one, Confederation ships simply stopped working. Not destroyed, not damaged, but disabled by weapons that seemed to rewrite the laws of physics. Some ships found their engines running backward. Others discovered their weapons firing on themselves. A few began moving in directions that did not exist in normal spacetime. "What are they doing to us?" cried the tactical officer. "They're playing with us," Quinda realized with growing horror. "They could destroy us all instantly, but they're showing us how helpless we are instead." The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 3 days straight. Representatives from 47 different species filled the great chamber on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, all talking at once in a chaos of voices, clicks, whistles, and translated thoughts. At the center of it all stood Admiral Quinder, his insectoid form trembling as he finished his report. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the recordings his fleet had made during their encounter with the human Titan. No one questioned the authenticity of the data. The evidence was too incredible to fake. The human vessel was 3 kilometers long, Quinder repeated for the 5th time. It generated its own gravitational field. Its weapons operated on principles that our best scientists cannot explain. And its artificial intelligence spoke to us like we were children playing with toys. Counselor Valtara of the hegemony leaned forward, her 6 arms gesturing dismissively. "You're telling us that a species we had never heard of 6 months ago has built technology that surpasses everything in the galaxy?" "I'm telling you that they didn't just surpass us," Quinder replied grimly. "They made us look primitive. My fleet of 200 ships was neutralized without a single human casualty. They could have destroyed us all in seconds, but they chose to demonstrate their superiority instead." Representative Colbash of the Stellar Union spoke up, his rocky features showing deep concern. "What are the implications for the rest of us? If humans can advance this quickly, what stops them from conquering the entire galaxy?" The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. For 1,000 years, the various galactic powers had maintained a careful balance. Technology advanced slowly. Wars were fought with predictable weapons. Sudden changes were rare and usually contained, but the humans had shattered all those assumptions in less than a month. On Earth, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the Titan Indomitable, watching ships from dozens of different species arrive in Earth's solar system. Not warships this time, but diplomatic vessels, trade ships, and exploration craft. Word of humanity's technological breakthrough had spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. "Status report on our visitors," she requested from Adam, the ship's AI. "We currently have 43 different species requesting diplomatic contact," Adam replied, his voice coming from speakers that seemed to be part of the ship's very structure. 12 want to establish trade agreements. 15 are offering military alliances. 8 are requesting technological exchanges. And 6 are asking for protection from the Zephyrian Confederation. Elena nodded thoughtfully. Any signs of hostile intent? None detected. The visitors appear to be genuinely interested in peaceful contact. Several species have transmitted what appear to be gifts and cultural artifacts. Dr. Sarah Kim joined Elena at the observation window, carrying a datapad filled with reports from Earth's new diplomatic course. "The President wants to know how we should handle all this attention." "Carefully," Elena replied. 3 weeks ago, no one in the galaxy knew we existed. Now we're apparently the most powerful military force in known space. That kind of change makes people nervous. On the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Harmony's voice, Ambassador Lixandra of the Peaceful Federation watched Earth grow larger in the viewport. Her species had been enslaved by the Zephyrian Confederation for 2 centuries, forced to work in their mines and factories. The news of humanity's victory had given her people something they had not felt in generations: hope. "Are you certain?" About this? Asked her aide, Captain Morgan. Approaching the humans could be seen as an act of rebellion by the Confederation. The Confederation's power is broken, Lexandra replied firmly. Their fleets have been defeated twice. Their technology has been surpassed. If we don't act now, we may never have another chance for freedom. The Harmony's voice was not alone. Ships from 17 different species that had been conquered or oppressed by various galactic powers were converging on Earth. They had heard the stories. They had seen the recordings. And they dared to hope that the humans might be different. From their previous master's dot, in the depths of space, far from Earth, Commander Vexhar sat in his personal quarters aboard a small scout ship. He had been stripped of his rank and exiled from Confederation space after his humiliating defeat. But he was not bitter. Instead, he found himself strangely fascinated by the humans and their impossible achievements. He had spent weeks studying every piece of data about human history and culture that he could find. What he discovered had changed his understanding of intelligence itself. Humans were not just technologically adaptive. They were evolutionarily designed for rapid change. Their entire species had developed through constant challenge and adaptation. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters by learning and improving faster than any other known species. Computer, open a transmission to Earth, he said quietly. Channel open, Commander. This is former Commander Vexhar of the Zephyrian Fleet. I request permission to speak with Captain Elena Vasquez. The response came back within minutes. Elena's face appeared on his screen, and Vexhar was surprised to see no hatred or anger in her expression. Just curiosity. Commander Vexhar, I wasn't expecting to hear from you again. Captain Vasquez, I have information that may be valuable to your species. The Confederation is planning something desperate. They cannot accept that they have been defeated by what they still consider primitives. Elena leaned forward. What kind of something? They are gathering every ally they can find. Species that have never worked together before are joining forces against Earth. They're calling it the Great Correction, and they plan to bring over 1,000 ships to your system. Elena was quiet for a moment. And you're telling us this because? Vexhar considered his words carefully. Because I've studied your species, Captain. I've learned about your history, your culture, your way of thinking, and I've realized something that the Confederation refuses to accept. What's that? You're not just another species to be conquered or allied with. You're something new, something that changes everything just by existing. And I would rather be on the side that represents the future than the side that clings to the past. Elena studied Vexhar's face for a long moment. Commander, are you asking for asylum? I'm asking for the chance to learn from the species that taught me how little I really knew about the universe. 3 months later, Earth's first galactic diplomatic conference convened in the Great Hall of Luna City. Representatives from 68 different species attended, including several who had never spoken to each other before. President Santos opened the conference with words that would be remembered for centuries. We gather here not as conquerors and conquered, but as neighbors seeking to understand each other. The conference lasted for weeks. Trade agreements were signed. Mutual defense pacts were negotiated. Technology sharing programs were established. But most importantly, a new philosophy began to emerge. The old galactic order had been based on the idea that power belonged to those who had held it the longest. Species were ranked by age, by territory, by the size of their fleets. Change was slow and carefully controlled. The new order that emerged from the conference was based on different principles. Cooperation instead of domination. Innovation instead of tradition. Merit instead of inherited authority. Not everyone was happy with the changes. The Zephyrian Confederation and their remaining allies gathered their forces for one last attempt to restore the old ways. But when their great correction fleet of 1,500 ships arrived at Earth, they found something that crushed their hopes completely. Earth was no longer alone. The system was filled with ships from dozens of allied species, all working together, under human coordination. The Titan Indomitable had been joined by 5 sister ships, each one incorporating innovations that made the original look simple. But more importantly, the human technological revolution had not stopped. In the 3 months since their first victory, Earth scientists had continued advancing at an impossible pace. They had shared their discoveries freely with their allies, creating a network of cooperative innovation that left the old powers behind. The great correction fleet took one look at what awaited them and surrendered without firing a shot. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the former enemies dock with human stations to begin negotiations. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly at stations that combined human intuition with alien precision. "Captain," said Adam, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They're officially recognizing Earth as a great power and offering us a permanent seat on the ruling council." Elena smiled. "Tell them we'll consider it. But make it clear that any authority we accept comes with the expectation that we'll use it to help other species achieve their potential, not to control them." "Understood, Captain." "And Elena?" "Yes, Adam?" "I've been analyzing the data from our diplomatic contacts. Based on current trends, I calculate that within 50 years, the human model of cooperative advancement will become the standard across the galaxy." Elena looked out at the ships of former enemies and new allies working together in Earth space. "That sounds about right. Humans have always been good at teaching by example."